I want to talk about the science, or like what is the practical aspect of the 3 principles of UDL. Okay, so we'll move through that very quickly. Before we do that, I want to go back to our today's meeting and pull some ideas out of that, some things that you thought were great, whatever you may have. So Jane, Dallas, if you want to do that, they can visit. You guys can visit the Halloween swag bag. I know it's exciting. It's really not that exciting, but you know, free stuff's free stuff. So, you guys want a minute? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to give them a minute. I lied to you. We'll go back to these. So, here's the 3 principles of UDL, okay? And then kind of the explanation of what they mean. So, the first one is multiple means of expression, okay? What this truly is the how of learning. It's the idea of providing students different ways to express, prove, and demonstrate what they have learned. It's differentiation in many ways, except who's the focus? Who chooses that? Your students choose that, right? Now they may choose that in project-based learning. They may choose some of them make a movie, some of them build something, some of them write a paper, right? But they choose how they demonstrate different ways to express their learning, okay? Quick story, I was working with this teacher, on-fire teacher, like rock star teacher. He said, I really want to change things up, I really want to do something different. So students, this was an English classroom, students had to do basically compare and contrast between a movie and its book, or the book and then its movie, right? So we just gave them a white piece of paper, and we said, just demonstrate what the difference is. Make it sound in argument, right? Make it sound in structure, but just choose how to demonstrate that to us, right? Now, there are 30 kids in that class, and I'd like to tell you we got 30 different responses back, but we didn't, right? We had a group of students that wrote a traditional paper, and that's fine, that's great, they wrote great papers. We had students who made handouts and posters, right? Some of those were really cool. There was one that did a Eat, Pray, Love, and it ended up being like a menu, right? You open it up, and there's pop-outs, and it was a lot of fun. We had one kid who took graphic novel for Walking Dead, and they took the movie and spliced scenes together from both. They created almost like a living comic on it, right? The student doesn't do very well in that class, but on this project knocked it out of the park. Because they got to choose. They had that. They had, the only thing that we said was, show us how to do it, right? How do you do this practically in your class? You can do this by building design studios, or design, I like to call them cultures of design kits, where there's lots of things available, where there's pens, and there's markers, and there's different types of paper, whether they be paint sticky notes, or they're large raised paper, or they're butcher paper, whatever they are, building a design studio within your classroom that students can go to and access for when they need to think and they need to work. Design studio also means giving them design manipulatives. Things like silly putty, clay, funny erasers, slinkies, right? Those little push balls, those things all really work well. Have them bring in their own stuff, right? I ran a design studio at Oakland Schools, and we had teachers come in. This long PD was from 10 in the morning to 8 at night. Yeah, I know, right? The idea was that you could drop in anytime you wanted. You could stay as long as you wanted. Take lunch as long as you wanted. And they were there for instructional design, because I think that's really key for us. So we get back to this idea of being instructional designers. They sat down with their stuff, and they started working. Every one of them went and grabbed a design manipulative. Most of them grabbed silly putty, sat down, and as they were talking through things, they were working with them, right? And they didn't realize how much they worked with it, and they played with their silly putty or their Legos I put in there, all these different things. We give that freedom to adult PD, and we say that's a part of andragogy, or the idea of adult learning. The fact of the matter is, it's good for all learning, right? So design elements, building design kits, is great to help your students find ways to express their learning, right? And really have designs of time within their classrooms. Also, having them do presentations, VoiceThread, which has been around forever, podcasting, which has been around forever, building websites, building wikis, creating polls, making animation, whatever. There's tons of tools out there. I can put up a bunch of websites where you can go and use them. The other side of what I do is I find free technology and give it away for free and help teachers use that stuff. So on the Edmodo, I post up listings of great stuff that's out there that's for free that will help you with this design or this element. The next element is the multiple means of representation. What this looks like, this is really the what of learning. So it's this multiple ways to understand the information presented, right? Some students will need this audio, some students will need this in a visual manner, some students will need this in a multimedia manner, okay? The fact of the matter is, we provide all of those ways, we design that, we engineer that environment so that those ways are accessible to them. Now, we live in a great time where doing this has become increasingly easier. Right? We can post this up to a learning management system such as Edmodo, Schoology, Moodle if you're using Moodle, any of those, or a website. Right? And students can go to it if they have access, and they can find it. We can also provide them with the white paper if they don't have access. The final leg of this is multiple means of engagement. And this is really the why of learning. And this is really providing students with different avenues in which to engage and motivate their own learning, right? Motivate to learn, sorry. But providing them these different ways. The one thing that keeps coming up is what? Over and over. The one thread that is always the same in each one of these is providing students with choice. Sometimes informed choice, sometimes choice of their own, but ultimately providing them with choice because it relies on the idea and the premise that we don't control learning. We structure learning, we add scaffolding to learning, but ultimately we don't control it. So if we don't control it, let's give the real power back. Let's let students control their learning and derive meaning from their learning through choice. Now there are some times that really the choices aren't going to be either one that you like. Right? We can't live in a world where every choice is exactly what you want. But providing students with choice allows them to say, I may not like writing a paper, I may hate making movies, but I'm much better at writing a paper than I am at making a movie. So I'm going to write a paper, I'm going to demonstrate my knowledge that way. Right? What else does this look like? Real life situations, simulations, collaboration. I love this word collaboration because we rarely do it well, and we rarely have any training on it. Have you guys gone through any training on collaboration? You have?
Well, throughout the 20 years of my being here, yeah. Many
Right.
times.
But, and so have those, do you use those models of collaboration? Do you use like a Myers model of collaboration, anything like that?
No.
Exactly, you don't, right? We have to find a way to train students in collaboration before we tell them to collaborate. Right? But in order to do that, we have to have a way to collaborate ourselves. Right? So collaboration is a sticky wicket in my mind that we assume that it's going to happen. It's one of those hidden assumptions that we make. We commit a suicide with it. We say, of course the kids are going to collaborate. Of course that's a great idea. Wait a minute, why the hell aren't they collaborating? And it's partially because we don't know how to teach that collaboration. We say you can collaborate by doing. Right? And sometimes you can. Sometimes if you're not very good at that very amorphous idea, it becomes very hard for you to put that into practice. Right? We need to focus on ways to do collaboration. Now, how can you do collaboration? Have them build puzzles, have them work in things that are silent. There's a great thinking routine that's called Chalk Talk. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but it's basically like graffiti. You take out a big piece of paper, you put an essential idea in the middle, you have students write around it, and they can't talk. They switch amongst each other, right? And what happens is they form conversations, but by doing that, right, they have to understand what intent is, and then they start really collaborating ideas. They come to the same place you guys came to as staff saying, wait a minute, we really are on the same page, even though we look at this differently. Right? So I would suggest looking at that. Look at stuff from Project Zero, thinking routines, or just type in Chalk Talk, you'll find a ton of stuff. Or tap Jane over here or Dallas, because they are brilliant in it as well.
We can put some stuff up on Edmodo.
Okay. So I'm going to skip through this because it's just kind of more of the same. Did you ladies come up with something great on today's meet? Yes?
We
Right.
basically
I'm
have
going to
like
turn it over to you.
7 people that have been really participating.
Right on.
So I thought we would acknowledge all 7 of those people.
For sure. Let's do it.
Don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Not that we all have pseudonyms.
But
There's a problem.
They're not here.
we have,
No, they do.
no,
Oh.
Pseudonyms.
they don't use their real name.
Ah.
Like Ben.
So call them out.
I want to know, Jim, no.
So it all depends, like, how bad you want the prize? Like, are you willing to reveal your true identity?
I was all. I was school officer.
So we have the toolboxes.
Right here.
Why are you toolboxes? I've always wanted to know who these people are.
Keep doing it. There you go. All right. You guys look for that.
Just do what you want to do.
You're the best prize. You're the first one.
Right on.
And then we
Oh my God, I love
have group 9.
Or generative learning. This is the concept of generative learning. Currently, most of our learning happens in this single loop learning, where we take the governing variables or our assumptions and our beliefs, right, that informs the actions and the techniques by which we teach. Then we see the results or consequences of that teaching. Then we go back to our actions and we say we must change our actions. Okay? If you understand the principles of UDL, the philosophy of UDL, it really works on double generative. It says, based on these results, how do my learners and myself, how do we travel back to our assumptions and change why we do what we do? That will inform our practice. That will make us gourmet omnivores and chase after the PD and the information that we need to inform practice. We'll also teach our students, our learners, how to do the same thing, how to rework conceptual frameworks, because that's one of the hardest things for us to do. Right? If we are constantly assessing those things and constantly reflecting upon our governing variables or our assumptions, we are being reflective practitioners. That is what we truly model to students. That is what we truly model to students. We tell them all the time we want them to fail, but because we spend time in educational crisis, we're like, I don't want to fail. What they pick up is that they don't want to fail either. Right? Now you have an underpinning belief here in your room, in your staff, that failure is okay. Right? As long as failure isn't our goal, as long as failure isn't where we live, right, it's okay. So this idea of double loop learning is something that you already have the beginnings of. Right? I would tell you to check it out a little bit more. Based on time, I want to move forward.
One more prize while you're moving forward.
Okay? I won't talk about the implications of technology in UDL. There are two schools of thought around universal design for learning. That A, it can happen anywhere, anytime, and anyway. And B, that it requires technology to do so. We need assistive technology, we need smart boards, we need iPads in education, we need all of these things in order to have UDL happen, differentiation to truly happen, these things. I don't know that I necessarily believe that. I believe there are many ways that we can do this. This activity has been one. Your essential statements has been one. The idea of being on a back channel and having open conversation is differentiation on its own as well. Right? None of those are high tech, right? But you can still do them and you can still use them. So the real change comes into this idea as we begin to implement RTI. We have serious concerns about how we will implement interventions for those struggling students, as well as meet the needs of those who need extra. By thinking about UDL for each lesson, we would be build in extra supports for 3 learning networks, which means that not only will those students who are identified as needing more support in each of the 3 learning networks will get it, but everyone will get it. That's the idea. Build in this idea of choice. How do I give honest choice? How do I give honest feedback? How do I use double loop learning to change assumptions in my classroom and build cultures that are collective and around the idea of learning, as opposed to staying in this area and saying, well, we have this group, and they are on our superintendent challenge, and we have this group, and they are on our bottom 30 challenge. We have this group. How do we meet their needs? We're going to give them more. How are we going to structure this extra time? They're going to do that online. All of a sudden, you become a very disjointed organization and a disjointed organism in learning, right? Create a tribe of learning within your classroom, but realize that you are not the tribal leader in your classroom. If we go back to primitive ideas of what tribes were, there was always a shaman that sat outside of the tribe and cared for the well-being of the tribe. They did not lead the tribe, but they were the people that leaders came to. You naturally have leaders in your classroom. Whether they're positive or negative, you have them there, right? And guess what? They have more experience with each other than you have with them. They've gone through this system however long, some of them since 6th grade, some of them since kindergarten. learned each other and learned their roles. They have an established tribe. You are the shaman of that tribe. You care for the well-being of that tribe, the well-being and care of the entire community. And when it's sick, you help heal it. And when it's lost, you help find it. That's what we do. That's the craft of what we do. Right? UDL helps us with that because it challenges assumptions all the time. How many people feel this way? And yes, I know, I believe what you're thinking too. It seems hard, like it take a lot of time, and it will. It will. This change isn't easy. Change is constant. It's not easy. How can I actually do this with everything else I have to do? There are tons of tools out there, folks. I will encourage you to go to the CAST website again, which is just cast.org. And there are great things there. There are great tools there. You can hook up with other people in a PLN. You can have a goal setter, which will set goals for students. They can set their own. You can set them for them. There is a lesson maker on there. There is a solution finder. So if you put in a barrier, it helps you find the solutions. If that doesn't work, you put in some more barriers, further define it. There is a lesson builder, which I spoke of. There's an e-book maker, like a digital book maker. It's not the greatest, but they are bumping it up, so it might be better as time goes on. So in the end, what is it really about? We support all learners, right? That's the idea. We support all learners. And we often mistake this word support for help. And then we further confuse that idea by confusing help for do it for you, right? And they're completely different things. If students fall, they fall. We pick them up, we help them up, we support them, right? We reach out our hands, we say, you need to reflect on why you fell, or you failed, or whatever term you want to use. Right? Your reflection is important. I will back that play, right? But I can't do it for you. So I want to finish with this final activity, and then I want to let you go, folks. You need to get in groups of 3, and let's move quickly. So choose your group. It doesn't even matter. Just a group of 3, and kind of huddle together.
How many you guys have? We need 2 more.
Hope you use it in your classroom. If you love hip-hop, such as I love hip-hop, this is what we're going to do. There is one interview, there's one role that's called the interviewer. Okay? I'm going to tell you very simply, being the interviewer, this is the only question you ask. What are you good at? There is one person who is the interviewee. Your job is to say what you're good at. And then there's the hard job. And that's being the hype man. Right? Rappers love to talk about themselves, but more importantly, they love to have people talk about them. Right? So your job as a hype man is to blow it out of proportion, right? So if that person says, I make some good pancakes, the hype man, nah, son, she don't make no good pancakes. She makes them so good that when you sit down to them, they're an emotional commitment. Right? It's like biting into a little bit of love and a little bit of heaven. If heaven had a taste and you pour maple syrup on it, it would be her pancakes. Right? Okay? So you have to go big. Right? You have to leave it behind and you have to go big. So you get 90 seconds to do this. Then you switch roles.
Oh, we are going to do this.
Oh, yes. That's what happens. You switch roles. So then, interviewer, you become the interviewee. Hype man, you get a break and you get to become the interviewer. Right? Person who was just interviewed, the interviewee, you get to be the hype man. We'll change it every 90 seconds. Okay? Decide who's going first and doing what. Step out of the box. Right? I'm going to talk about your talents. Right? How many people found it hard to find things to say that supported other people's talents?
I just so good at talking about myself.
How many people are tired from being the hype man? If you aren't tired, you're not like my man, hashtag Mike. Hashtag Mike left it all out there. Right? Bring this to you.
Shout out to Laura.
Give it up.
She's so good at making cupcakes. Every week she has the newest,
Most popular subject.
Now imagine if you brought this to your classroom, and imagine if you started your staff meetings this way. Would you understand the talent that you have in the room? You would. Would you be hyped up when you left? You would. Would you understand that your passion is recognized? You would. Bring that to your classrooms. I'm Brian Dean. I hope to work with you further. Thank you very much, everybody, for that.